I don't know what went wrong. I don't know what we did to deserve this. I don't know anymore. Andrew, oh my gosh. This week has been crap for wrestling. I'm sorry. I know I usually do my happy-go-lucky intro, but I gotta get this off my chest before we get started with all that. This week has not been fun for wrestling. It's been very mediocre at best.
It feels like everybody's phoning it in. Like, it just, I don't.
I don't know. But thankfully, once we get through this, there's one show that saved the day so far this week. And that was another, review that we're going to be doing later today. But hi, all you BC WrestlePod nerds out there. And welcome to another rendition of the Bi-Conic Review of Honor, otherwise known as Bro. I am your host, Mikey. I'm not usually the one that is doing the leading in all of this, but for the second week of the row, our other co-hosts who are not here tonight looked at Ring of Honor this week and were like, nah, we'll pass. So me and Andrew, Mr. A to Z himself, have decided to martyr ourselves for the cause and watch this week's episode of Ring of Honor. But don't worry, Jesse and JVL will be back next week. And spoiler alert, I'm just going to put this out there now. JVL owes me big time, so therefore he's going to be pulling double duty next week. So it's going to be a fantastic time. But let's just get into this. My overall thoughts of this episode before we go bit by bit. I was severely disappointed with what we got. Like, there are some people on here I love dearly, but between wonky scripts and weird pacing and choices of why these matches were here, just boggles my mind. And once again, I am having PTSD because the audio is actually good here at Daly's Place. I'm like, what happened to Dynamite 2 weeks ago?
Since I'm pretty sure they were recorded it like on the same day or whatever.
It's frustrating. But, Andrew, we're going to get through this together. But before, even though I was robbed of honor this week, we do need to adhere to the code of honor here at the Bro. So hands in. We're going to shake and let's get through this together. So, I can't speak for Andrew, but after, Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman welcomes us to Ring of Honor this week, we get our opening match, and this is my personal match of the night by default, unfortunately, and I wish I didn't have to say it like that, but by default, this was my match of the evening. We saw the Infantry, which is Carly Bravo and the captain, Sean Dean, being accompanied by Trish Adora, taking on the Outrunners, who are being accompanied by the Ring of Honor debut of Laser Linda. And I'm just like, okay, this is already the best match, 10 out of 10. Now we have Laser Linda. I'm super excited to see this go off the rails down the line. It's going to be fantastic. And again, this was my match of the night. I thought this was a really fun tag team match between these four men. The Outrunners got a lot more offense than I thought they were going to. And I was just like, okay, I'm here for a swerve. Ultimately, though, the Infantry do pick up the win, which makes a lot of sense given the story that we're being telling. But damn, this was a really fun tag team match between the two of them.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see the Outrunners come out with Laser Linda, though it was surprising that she got laid out so quickly. And then, like, halfway through the match, they went to a wide shot, and she was, like, laying on the ground outside the ring. She's still on the ground? All right, she wasn't super helpful in this match. I thought it was a really good quality tag match. It was a very big throwback. I think a lot of part of that was because the Outrunners had most of the offense, which they did a lot of, classic moves. And the Infantry used a lot of classic moves too to kind of like, rub it in the face of the Outrunners. But this match was a little slower than I had initially expected from both of these tag teams. And I felt like there was a surprisingly high amount of like miscues. Carly Bravo had to hit like 3 different ropes in order to hit the boot camp. And then there were just a few things that just seemed a little off. This should have been a warning for me what came the rest of the night. But there was just a misstep from everybody in this match like throughout. Even the initial thing with Queen Aminata, with Trish Adora hitting the Lariat Tubman on Laser Linda, there was like a bit of a like stutter step into that one too. So it was really weird, but yeah, I mean, as a tag team fan, they did hit all the marks. It just wasn't what I expected from these two tag teams facing each other. So I'm hoping that this rivalry is going to keep going. We're going to get even bigger matchup with 2 or 4 of them.
Look, we've been saying this. I've been saying this for a very long time. Specifically, if you want to have good short-term feuds, do the 3-act structure trilogy. So this was technically the first match. So let's get to more. The second one, Outrunners win, and then get a blow-off match between the two of them at some point. Add a stipulation. It'll be fantastic. But like I said, by default, despite the miscues, for me, this was my match of the night. And now that I think about it, you brought this up, Andrew, given of how kind of messy some of the parts of the match were, I should have known better for what I was going to be getting for the rest of the evening, which we didn't have to waste time finding out why I had this uncertainty in my stomach, because we get our next match with our personal favorite, and I need to buy her shirt immediately. We have the native beast Nyla Rose taking on a debuting Cameron Burnett, formerly known as Amari Miller in NXT. Hey, Amari girl, love to see you wrestling. But let's be honest, this was a squash match. Nyla Rose just doing Nyla Rose things. I love Nyla Rose, but I want to see her enter a feud that is more than squash matches. Don't get me wrong. I love her showing off her crazy strength and power and destroying people left and right. But I'm ready for her to have an actual feud, because now that she is done with Athena for now, I want to see her have a feud with who at this point. I'll take anybody. Taya would be fun. Just anybody. I think Nyla needs a feud, because I'm tired of seeing her just squash people left and right, which is fun to watch still. But I want more for Nyla because she's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, and even if it's not a direct feud, she needs a target. Because even if she continues to squash people, those squash matches can serve a purpose if it's leading her to something. But right now, yeah, it just kind of feels like it's to have Nyla Rose come out and have fun. My only note with this from this match was fun, because it was fun. She did what she does, and even Cameron Burnett played into it a lot. She had the right amount of comedy to her being the squatchy. So it was fun, but yeah, that's what it was. And from the beginning, I think we all kind of knew that's what it was going to be. Yes, I would like to have more from Nyla, because she is super entertaining, both in tossing people around and in being funny. So super entertaining, but give her more.
Yeah, I agree with you. I want to see more from Nyla. And from here, we go to our first backstage promo vignette thing. Okay, before we get into, the whole thing with 2.0's promo, I believe that because I hang around with enough theater people and people who are in the world of theater here at BC WrestlePod, i.e. Andrew, Will, JVL, the Professor, pretty much almost 50%, Adolfo even to that matter, the majority of the BC WrestlePod nerds are theater nerds as well. And I feel that through osmosis, I'm able to pick up certain things. Because this setting was trash, Andrew. The lighting was bad. The backdrop was not good. I was like, it felt like we took a supply closet and like jerry rigged it to be a booth to, for the promos, which was not great. So that was already red flag number 1. Red flag number 2 is the script for this promo was also trash, because, I got to give it to Cool Hand Angelo Parker. Like, it started off okay because he was recounting what's been going on with Rampage. Congratulations to him and Ruby Soho, expecting their first child together. I had to look up to make sure it wasn't just a storyline. No, they are a real couple and they are expecting their first child. So I'm super excited for them. And it started off great because now Cool Hand Angelo Parker said he had to reassess things, but now he has something to fight for. I'm like, okay, dope. And then Daddy Magic opened his mouth. Daddy Magic Mac Menard, I love you. Honestly, you are probably the best commentator on AEW right now that isn't when Ian and Caprice are there. But the whole analogy of packing up the band in somewhere, I was like, you could have got to the point of this promo in 4 sentences less than what you gave me. Because essentially, they are here to be a part of the ROH tag team division, and that they're going to come after the Undisputed Kingdom and get those tag team titles to take them to the promised land that is ROH. Again, had we cut 4 or 5 sentences, we could have gotten to the point, and I would have been like, okay, it wasn't the best, but I would have thought this was unnecessarily long.
So I might get flack for this. I don't know, but I've never been a 2.0 fan. When they came into AEW, I was not super excited. What I saw from them, like, I'm not saying they're bad in the ring at all. I just am not into any of the things that they've done, like gimmick wise and that kind of stuff. I especially am not a fan of Daddy Magic. It he's too much. Like, especially in this promo, like doing like, now's the time. Now it's the time. I've got something to fight for. Something to fight for. Like, it was just trying to be like this hype man or whatever. It was just it's a little too shticky for me. And that all of that aside, I'm glad we finally have a solid tag team to come over from AEW so we can have challengers to the Ring of Honor title, because what else would we do? Because we can't use Ring of Honor tag teams. We've got to have these tag teams who they can't have anything to do in AEW. So, well, just have them come over here and wrestle for the Ring of Honor title. And it's the extension of not using Ring of Honor titles for Ring of Honor talent. And it's more of this, just like crapping on the people who are putting in the work every week in Ring of Honor to give something to the people who are in AEW. And we have plenty of solid tag teams that we've seen working their asses off in Ring of Honor to hype up this company, this branch, whatever it is, and the fans that follow it. And all they're being used for are half-assed efforts of stories, or getting crapped on as these other people just come in and jump the line in front of them. They're I would rather see all of our Ring of Honor tag teams wrestle before I want to see 2.0 wrestle. I especially don't want to see them come in and take their space.
Yeah, well, we're gonna be talking about a little bit about that a little bit later. So it's really weird. I like 2.0 as a tag team, but like again, you have tag teams in ROH. You do not need to bring tag teams that are not doing anything in AEW down. Like I don't get that. But speaking of tag teams, we have tag team action next because this is a ROH World Tag Team Championship Proving Ground match, or is it, between our champions, the Kingdom. They need to either let them be the whole entire Undisputed Kingdom in ROH, because or just the Kingdom. I was like, you can't be going back and forth. And I'm gonna catch some hate for this, but I'm like, just to ban the Undisputed Kingdom, because we're not doing anything with that faction storyline wise. But anyways, the Kingdom take on the Crown, aka what happens when you order Gates of Agony on Wish.com. Though I did like their aesthetic a little bit. I was like, okay, I could get this, but as soon as I saw this on the placard leading into the episode, I'm like, I know where this is going. And sure enough, this is exactly how it went. This is a 5-6 minute match. The Crown got some offense in, but let's be real, the Kingdom took it to them and won this match, thus surrendering the Crown from not being able to challenge these men. Why do we continue to do Proving Ground matches, Andrew? There's only been one where we've reached the time limit draw, and that was the Infantry. And we saw how that match turned out at Supercard of Honor with the ending. Why do we continue to still have Proving Ground matches that don't equate to anything with real stakes? I'm sorry, I'm getting vocal.
Yeah, it's we have Proving Ground matches that don't prove anything, and we give them to people we know aren't going to win. Like, there's plenty of people that you can give a chance to get in there and wrestle for it. There's also plenty of teams that should be wrestling for those titles. Like, it just makes no sense what they're doing. They're they were before using the Ring of Honor titles as props in AEW. Now they're using them as props in Ring of Honor. Like, there's just no benefit. Like, I have less problem when Athena does Proving Ground matches because she's done some of them, and they've gone the same way too. But Athena's also been there every single week, even if it's just in a promo format. She's there every week, and she has defended her title so many times. She's been at every pay per view since she won the title. She has been the literal backbone of Ring of Honor. So a couple proving ground matches for her that are against local talent or whatever, people we know aren't going to win, people that don't win that thing. I'm more okay with that. But when you bring in your ring, you don't need to have a proving ground match if your champions never defend the title, because if someone beats your champions, then it would logically make sense that they should then get a title shot. That's always been the idea. If you're going to have these specialty things like a proving ground match, then you got to use them to where they make sense. You got to use them to tell stories. You got to use them to progress the line. If they wanted to actually start making sense, a great opportunity would be to take Maria and the Mama's Boys, build them up, get a proving ground match, have Maria use her knowledge of the kingdom to help her boys win and go on to challenge the champions for those tag team titles. But they need more titles to make these stories in AEW that aren't going anywhere seem like they have more importance, because they don't have enough AEW titles to put them on the people they want to put titles on. And the Undisputed Kingdom should not need titles to be a story, because you started off really well, and if you would have kept that story going, which you still could have with Adam Cole getting injured and all that stuff, but when that happened, basically now what we're waiting is for Wardlow to turn on the Undisputed Kingdom. That's really what we're waiting for with that whole story.
I don't believe in proving ground matches anymore outside of Athena, because even though we know most of the time Athena's going to win, at least she's there every week, either in the ring or during a promo backstage segment, or even in a small section like we saw during the main event to let us know, oh yeah, this is our champion. And our both our champions, plural, because Billy Starks is also one of those people. Kingdom win. I want to move on with my life. And then it got progressively worse with my life because listen, I want to state by saying I love JD Drake. I really, really do. I think his in ring is fantastic, and the Workhorse Men are one of my favorite tag teams that ROH and the AEW universe collectively have. However, this promo, once again, in this badly lit, badly, set design of a section of the hall, like the broom closet, JD, the Southern twang is strong in you, my friend, but this promo was not it. Again, it goes back to whether it was JD himself, what he was given, but I hate promos that tend to spin their wheels and repeat themselves so much. You do not need to overemphasize and you do not have to repeat yourself or try to say the same thing you're saying in like three different ways, because that's exactly what JD did. But the whole plot of this promo is that within the last month, JD has felt lost. And, he recalls a story about his grandfather giving him a $2 bill. And that this was reminded him of that story in the symbol that just like a $2 bill, when times get tough, you have two options. You either quit or you get back to work. And while JD, it might be a workhorse man at the moment, given the fact that Anthony Henry is sidelined for who knows how long with this injury, it's time for JD to be the workhorse man and kind of get this together and do what he needs to do. I'm here for it. But this promo did not need to be this long either, and you could have cut a bunch of stuff out to get to the point. I don't even think JD was sure of what he was saying either, because he kept The thing that doesn't help promos either is that when you stumble upon yourself, you don't recover. JD tripped over his words like he was reading off of something, and you could tell he was thinking about what he was trying to get across. Sir, practice makes perfect.
Yeah, it would be cool if his story, his anecdotal story, was true, but the way it came across, it felt like, let's find a prop that we can use and make a story to try and give this some meaning, and that's because it didn't come off as natural. I would have been more excited to see JD Drake come out, do a squash match against some local talent. You could have put him in there instead of some of these other matches. Had him go out there and just look like a big hoss and just run over someone, and then just have him, basically say something after the match, short and sweet. They got the same message across, saying, I was lost, but now I'm here to work. Maybe the last workhorseman, but anybody that's in my way is getting run over, and have him give him that solid singles run. He's kind of a Bam Bam Bigelow kind of guy. He's, and like Ivar in NXT, WWE is kind of that similar way, like surprisingly agile for a man his size and still a powerhouse. So you could have done something much more interesting that would have been more show, less tell. So let's see what we actually get from him.
Yeah. So we love JD Drake, but this promo for me wasn't it. So then we get two matches that I also felt like, why? First, we get another squash match. Toa Leona defeating Jimmy Wild. There's really not much to say. Toa just literally ran through this man and like just put the, beat the brakes off this man. Like, moving on. Like, there's really not much I can
Yeah.
say.
No, the
It's
biggest
like,
thing from this is apparently Toa is looking for Swerve, or not Swerve, for Prince Nana, because I don't know why, because I don't only watch Ring of Honor. So, this is one of those problems of like multi show storytelling.
if you don't watch
But
the whole product.
yeah, but also it's weird because Gates of Agony is such a like they're just a force of nature. So it kind of is weird that they like need Prince Non. Like I like that they work with him and I like what they've done with Mogul Embassy. But to be fair, Mogul Embassy, the trio, or Gates of Agony, like they're fine on their own. Let them just
Mm-hmm.
be savages on their own and just destroy some tag teams or some trios teams or whatever. Yeah, this was just a chance to have Toa Leona come out and wrestle, and Brian Cage and Khan were not there, so they gave him a single squash instead of
Yep.
a tag team.
Yep. Which then prompts us into our next match. This is a 6-man tag, which saw the Dark Order as faces, question mark. Same bit before I got to get through the team. So Dark Order, which is Evil Uno, John Silver, and Alex Reynolds, took on the team of Adam Priest, Zicky Dice, and Sean Maluta. Okay, here's my first issue. You got to figure out if you want to let the Dark Order be heels or be faces, because you keep flip-flopping them back every time we see them on television in ROH. Sometimes they're heels, sometimes they're faces. I don't understand. Like, pick a lane and stick in it. And then, while this was given a little bit more time, ultimately this was another squash match, which no surprise, the Dark Order won. I thought there was some fun stuff here. Formerly TNA alum Zicky Dice, who was with Johnny Swinger pretty much all last year. Nice to see him on ROH, but yeah, Dark Order win with the triple blackout, which is a really fun finisher, by the way. I don't care what nobody says. And then they go to the camera and they talk about how they're coming after the trios champions. I was just like, okay, I'm intrigued, but it's kind of hard to call out the champions when they're not on ROH television. That's a recurring theme here.
Yep. We showed up in Ring of Honor so we could get some wins over the people they'll let us beat, because they won't let us beat people in AEW. So then that way we can challenge for other titles. And it was fun to see Maluta and Priest. I haven't seen them in a while. There were some, in the AEW dark days and Elevation and, the pandemic times, they were some staple jobbers that, did really good work. I have to say the agility, Bryce Remsburg dodging, almost getting run over, that was pretty entertaining. I actually, even though this was an obvious outcome, the three people facing the Dark Order, or at least pretty established, vets, relatively. So they at least made everything look good. They kept it fun, obviously. So in that regards, it was nice, but it didn't do much to help with the lackluster night of matches.
Speaking of things not helping, the bad promos continue on with this, because next we get I'm mad because Andrew and the rest of the hosts know this. We all collectively love the Iron Savages so freaking much on this program. Again, this promo sucked so bad, because essentially what this did is that the Iron Savages are now slowly turning heel because they're tired and they're done amusing the crowd. Trying to get the crowd on their side has not worked for them the past year. And so now they're going to continue to be the Iron Savages, but they're going to change their strategy from here on onward. And so they are no longer going to be taking people to Titty City. You cannot have them say that and be heels. The point of a heel, in my opinion, is to rob the small intricacies of joy that the audience might have. If you present the Iron Savages as these lovable goofballs who take people to Titty City with the Savage sauce, you take away the sauce and you You need to take away the titty city. Do not give the crowd what they want. And that is basic heel 101. However, you want to turn them heel, but you want them to continue to use the catchphrase. That's not how it works. Or at least in my opinion, that's not how it works. And honestly, I don't care about what the internet says. These are my opinions. I stand on my ground. This is what I look for in my wrestling. You cannot have heels give people what they want, because I still love the Iron Savages. You're supposed to make me hate them if they're going heel. This promo sucked. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I knew that they were going to be going heel. I've talked about it in the past about I think it would be good for them. But when I say that, I think they need to go serious heel. All of them, even Jack Jameson, they're all big dudes. Like, if they went Iron Savage layover with the Bear Country attitude, they'd be a huge, like, unstoppable, like, team, like going up against teams like Gates of Agony, against the Righteous, against teams like that. Like, they'd be another force to go against. And we already have teams like the Outrunners and the Infantry, that are like fun, entertaining teams. I'd say the Outrunners are like a comedy heel team, but that fits for the style that they do. You have to change more about the Iron Savages if they're going to go heel from what they've always been doing, just saying that they're now like heels or whatever. The best part of this was when we came out of this promo and Jack Jameson was talking about Titty City, and Riccaboni was like, I don't want to go there no more. It was just like such a like I don't want to go to grandma's house anymore. Like, it was just like
I don't
I
want
don't
to
like
be
it.
here.
Yeah.
Mom, can you come pick me up?
Yeah, that's not fun anymore. Like, that was just such a great reaction, and the way he delivered it was so entertaining. But that was the best part of the promo.
That was, again, Ian Caprice continued to show why they are the best commentary team in the world. That is not a fact. That is not an opinion. That is a fact. Just put it out there. All you marks. I'm just kidding. I'm not trying to get us in trouble with the internet. But, as the internet has proven in the last couple of weeks, there's no pleasing anyone. So I'm just going to please myself. Don't take that out of context. I see you folks looking at us. But, we're moving on. And we get into... I was very surprised of how much I enjoyed this. But then again, it might have been at this point in the show. The bar has been so low leading into this point that maybe... in reality, I was just deluded off of how disappointed I was with the evening so far. But we had Aaron Solo taking on John Cruz. And look, I love John Cruz. I think he is the best heel ROH has got. Put him more on my television screen. I still think fondly of his match with Jack Cartwheel like a couple months ago. That is still my favorite match just because of how funny it was. I did not like we had to sacrifice him to Aaron Solo, but I am intrigued that Aaron is joining the Mr. and Mrs. TV universe, if you will, because ultimately, Aaron Solo picks up the win here with a roundhouse kick. This was fun. John Cruz made this fun. Aaron Solo, I think, is very underrated. I just wish they gave him more to do, but hopefully, with teaming with Johnny and Taya, this gives him something more to do. But I thought this was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like this was basically a squash match too. Like, It wasn't very long. We kind of knew that Aaron Solo was going to come out of this victorious. Yeah, John Cruz is someone who he never needs to win a match ever again because he's just so entertaining. You either love to hate him, love to see him get beat up, or you're just laughing at his, gimmicks, which is funny because Serpentico is someone you almost just can't help but cheer for. I would love to see some interactions between John Cruz and Dalton Castle. That would be hilarious. But, it was what it was. I wish we could have got a little bit more out of it because for all of his silliness, John Cruz is actually a really, really good wrestler. And, Aaron Solo's good in the ring as well. So I think they could have given us a bit more. I'm interested to see where we're going to go with this Aaron Solo and Johnny TV thing because I want to see where we're also going to go with Johnny TV and Ty Valkyrie now that they've moved away from the Dalton Castle feud. So hopefully we're going to do something interesting with this. But after this night, I don't know that interesting and Ring of Honor is going to ring true for me for a while. So we'll see.
It just makes me sad because I try to be the optimistic one here. But it's a bad week of wrestling if I'm even struggling to find the bright spots with the things we watch. But thankfully, there was a small glimmer of hope in our main event for the evening, just because this is the only story that is having any continuation and is having any development. Which, on the one hand, makes me super happy because it's the women's division and the women's stories are the best thing going on Ring of Honor. However, what makes me frustrated is how easy it is to do this with Athena and Billy and Queen and all them. Why can't you translate that with the men's division? Don't get me wrong, I love Mark Briscoe, I really, really do, but you need your champions and to appear in Ring of Honor ever so often, and not the pay-per-views. Okay, because then we get into a Claudio Castagnoli situation where that didn't he only appeared maybe like once on ROH television his whole entire title reign, and he did diddly squat for that title. And I love Eddie Kingston. He was a little more present, but even that was the same problem. Put it on someone who's going to be on Ring of Honor for the whole entire time. And I'm kind of frustrated that we had that with Joe as the TV champion, but then when he vacated it, I was so upset. I was
Well,
like,
and tell stories like
it's not that
even
hard.
it,
It
yeah.
doesn't even need to be for the title. You could have built, if we don't get anything for the infantry and the outrunners in the next couple of weeks, continuing their feud, I was just like, that was whack. I was like, you mean to tell me we only get a one and done and that's it? How dare you waste my time? But anyways, I'm done ranting because I do want to give props to both of these ladies, Queen Aminata versus Robin Renegade. Jesse's not here, but we finally got a Renegade twin back on ROH television.
Still missing Charlotte though.
Yeah, so hopefully everything's okay, but it's nice to see that the Renegades still exist in the world of ROH wrestling. And shout out to Caprice Coleman still with the Queen Aminata. She's my queen. I love Caprice so much. Technically, this was categorized as a squash match as well, but this was a little more competitive. I missed Robin and I was just like, oh yeah, I forgot. She's actually kind of great in the ring too. But man, Queen's probably rising in the ranks for me of my favorite finishers. That freaking air raid crash is still a thing of beauty to watch, and it's so good. Queen picks up a victory here, but Robin didn't make it easy for Queen, which is, also something simple. It doesn't always have to be so one sided all the time, even if we know the outcome. Let it be entertaining. Let me enjoy myself. And these, outside of our opening match, this was my second favorite match of the whole entire evening, too. The opener and the finish were great. It's like a reverse sandwich. The bread was actually pretty decent, but everything in the middle was kind of messy. But Andrew, what'd you think of our main event of Queen and Robin?
Yeah, I mean, it was a heavy hitting match. They went back and forth with each other. Robin's skills continue to grow. Queen is I think she is skyrocketed to where she is because even though she's relatively new, she's just really good. We've got Queen, we've got Red Velvet, we've got Billy, we've got some younger wrestlers and, not as tenured wrestlers they're just naturally good. They picked up on it, they work hard, they do a lot of good stuff. And so to see Robin in there with Queen, she was in there holding her own with her, and it was against someone she was obviously not going to win against because she's got that storyline going. But she looked good, and she gave her a bit of a run for her money at a couple points. I like that Queen used that headbutt to set up the finish because she basically knocked her out, but was like, nope. No, you gave me too much of a hard time. I'm gonna I'm gonna put a little extra hurt on you. I'd love for us to get the Renegades back to full force, and I still want to see them if since we don't have a title for women's tag team and any of the things they're associated with. I'd love to see them kind of be like some enforcers for another wrestler, whether they kind of teamed up with Athena and Billy, or I liked the idea of them working with Taya, both because I think it fits storytelling wise. When they did team up together, they looked great together. And I think them working with Taya behind the scenes, would be phenomenal for them because there's so much they could learn from her and working from her and just like being around her. So I'd love to see that. And that could just bring such a new force to Ring of Honor. And it gives another group that rivals some groups like Athena and Billy have and that kind of aspect. So I would love to see it because we have so many patches. I would love to see Ring of Honor actually get worked into an actual cohesive world, but I don't think that's going to really happen until they give it the time and effort that it needs. and they really separate it as its own thing from AEW, which is, I think, the big difference of, because let's face it, Ring of Honor is the equivalent is to AEW what NXT is WWE. Mind you, one's more developmental and the other one is more just like, subsidiary kind of thing of it. But the difference is NXT is its own world that will cross over and visit, have its wrestlers visit there and we'll get visitors from the other place. Ring of Honor is just this kind of, it's just it's like the shed in the backyard of the AEW house. Like it just doesn't get treated the same way, and it needs to have that respect and that treated that way. And it's unfortunate that it doesn't, because they have some phenomenal people who do really good work and really try to make it something.
Yeah. Like I said, this was my second favorite match of the evening. Queen picks up the victory. One thing I really enjoyed, though, is because we got a cutback of during this match that Athena and Billy Starks were watching this match backstage, but then they stormed out after Aminata won the match, and which is great because we're continuing to tell the story. Queen has unfinished business with Billy Starks, and like we did last week or the week before, Red Velvet still has unfinished business with Athena too. So again, both of your women's titles are in the spotlight right now as the only really cohesive long-term storytelling that ROH has, which I love. But like we said before, when Athena drops that title and if she moves over to the AEW roster to go do stuff for a little bit, Ring of Honor better have things ready to go, because Athena has been the biggest draw for ROH since its rebrand, and if we cannot start making new stars and having these championships and making, people be associated with Ring of Honor, like if I think Iron Savages, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a staple in Ring of Honor because they're always there. Infantry, like if you do not have staple stars and staple factions for ROH, when not just Athena, but like when you decide to take Billy, when you take Queen, because if you take all these individuals out and you have nothing left to fill in, it's just another weekly wrestling television show that I could watch. I was like, ROH, you have the pedigree and the history. Andrew's gonna get mad at me for saying what I'm about to say next, but like, don't be a MLW. Like, Andrew, I love you. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be mean, but I'm just like, you want people to keep coming back. Give them a reason to keep coming back. And honestly, I'm gonna be honest, MLW is kind of killing it right now with certain things. ROH, again, you have the pedigree of this history of the company. Give me a reason to come back every week outside of this is my moral obligation because we're a wrestling review channel. I want to invest my time and effort in these stars like I do in NXT. We talked crap about NXT earlier this week, how we were disappointed with Spring Breaking Week 2. You know the difference is, though? We are invested in all those kids that are over there. You need to stop pulling people in and out of ROH. You need to establish people outside of your women's champions to make me invested. I'm sorry, that shouldn't have gone on as long as it did, but this is how I feel. I want better for my product. I want better for the wrestlers. I want better for the fans, because ROH has shown that it can be really, really good, and it can be a good alternative if you want to see something different. But the last couple of months, and even with Supercard of Honor, it feels like you're working on a project, you realize it's due the next day, so you procrastinated this long, so you're like, okay, let me just hit the big points that people can talk about. That's cool and everything, but that's very shallow. Give me something deeper. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, I mean, this episode was really light. I got to the end and I was like, that's it, we're done. Okay. Yeah, there wasn't much to it, so I don't have much more to add.
It is what it is. So let's give our empanada ratings, do our handshake outro, and then get up on out of here. So then we can rest up and talk about an actual episode of wrestling that made me happy this week. Alrighty, so Andrew, I'm just gonna be straight up with you. I gave this a solid 5 out of 10 for me, maybe a 5.5. The opening match and the main event were very fun to watch. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. The middle, though, of this entire show, even though it was only an hour, felt like it dragged out in parts. We could have cut certain promos and certain matches that did not need to be here. and you're in Daly's place, and you need to tell me you couldn't have figured out some cooler stuff to do while you were in the home, the birthplace of the multiverse of this company that we know as All Elite Wrestling. I was very underwhelmed, disappointed with this. So I gave this a 5, maybe a 5.5, but nothing more than that.
Yeah, I give this a 5 too. I feel like that might be a little generous, but more than 50% of the matches were squatches. Nothing they did was to tell a story or progress storylines. None of that intrigued me, and everyone seemed to step off their game. So this was just a huge miss for me this week.
All right, we got through this. I vented my frustrations. I got it out of my system, so we are good. So Andrew, bring it in here, my friend. Even though this was a slog of an episode, I wouldn't want to be in the trenches of ROH more so than with you and JVL and Jesse. Even though this episode was crap, I'm happy that I still get to review it with you because you are my partner in arms with this through thick and thin. Do or die through the good and bad. All right. Me and Andrew are going to get up on out of here because we're going to try to rest because we're mad lads and we're going to be reviewing TNA with our other co-host, Will, later this evening. But that video will come out tomorrow due to the schedule. Follow us on the social media if you want to know our schedule. Because some people are like, when do you release stuff? Check the Instagram. It has their schedule. Which is really fantastic that you want to know when certain episodes come out. Because that means you enjoy our stuff. But from myself, Andrew, our two missing boys in JVL and Jesse, as well as the rest of the BC WrestlePod, fandom, and the host. Remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay Bi-Conic, but more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We'll catch you next week for another exciting ROH review, hopefully. But until then, ta-ta for now.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's gonna happen next time? Well, you're gonna have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.